right, y'all, are you all ready for God Valley? Yeehaw! I know that doesn't really work too well. I mean, God Valley sort of has like an Old West kind of vibe, so I have the closest thing to a cowboy hat is Ace's hat. And I have an axe, which would work better for Elbaf. I bought this at the county fair last night. You know, the big table at every county fair that has just a bunch of crazy esoteric weapons. Yeah, so it's a pretty cool axe. It's a pretty cool, like, obsidian-looking axe. So I'll keep this off to the side for when we get back to Elbaf. Okay, this will be One Piece, chapter 1159, titled The Island of Destiny. Ooh, epic. Remember the video game Destiny? I only ever played the first one. Is the second one good? Destiny had a sequel, right? Yeah, there was a sequel to that one. Yeah. Anyway, all right, continuing on with Yamato's Holy Inari Shrine Pilgrimage, Volume 41. Yamato leaves Ringo. That's basically this one. The pilgrimage is effectively completed. Originally, the job was to take Yasuie's sword to Hakumai and lay it to rest at the Enma Shrine. Yamato already did that. Picked up Page 1 and Ulti along the way. I was assuming that, you know, Yamato was going to pick up all the members of the Scabbards, like a new generation of the 9 Red Scabbards, you know, so we were going to run into some other people too. But no, it's just Page 1 and Ulti. They're leaving Ringo. They're all eating apples because Ringo means apple in Japanese, and so that's like what they're famous for. Interestingly enough, because it's a very snowy region, but I guess the apple trees bloom year-round. We also see Onimaru off to the side, Kawamatsu's little friend that has the ability to transform into the, I think it's, not Wanyudo, it was another yokai. Was it just Gyukimaru? Because it was Onimaru is the name of the fox, and then assumed the role of Gyukimaru. Hold on, I gotta double check what this yokai is called. Hold on. Ah, okay, I was very close. It wasn't a Wanyudo, it was an Onyudo. Wanyudo was the thing that Black Maria had with her weapon that had like the face inside of a wheel. All right, that's a different yokai than the Onyudo. All right, there we go. Anyway, yeah, Onimaru's there. Good to see him again. He was a good boy. Helped out Ushimaru and everything like that, and also Kawamatsu. Okay, so yeah, Yamato's headed back to the Flower Capital. Probably only going to see maybe a few more of these little cover page panels. Although, we've yet to tackle Onigashima yet, because the beginning of this cover story was Onigashima sinking beneath the waves. So I wonder if we're going to, like, bookend this by going back and referencing something from Onigashima. Maybe we'll find out what Onigashima, really, what its original name was, because it had a different name at one point, and maybe learn a little bit more about the ancient giants from, like, the First Age. So there's still potential here to end Yamato's cover story with like a big bombastic finale of like, what? You know, so hold on for that. Okay. Things are rather reaching tumultuous levels in the flashback right now. The flashback is reaching critical mass, ladies and gentlemen. All right. 39 years ago, so we're just 1 year out from God Valley. This is also where the chapter ended last time, where we go 39 years ago to seeing Shanks and Shamrock as they were just born, and we see their mother. Don't see her face, but now we're cutting over to Hachinosu on a dark and stormy night. The most horrible thing occurred. The death of Don Marlin! No! Don Marlin got off-screen! Damn it! Alright, well, that's unfortunate. Now, look, we know, we saw some members of Rox's crew in the flashback that were not mentioned in the current story, so we could assume, you know, we haven't heard the great legends harken through Valhalla about Don Marlin, right? So we assumed he was probably gonna die at some point. Didn't expect him to get the Bobbin treatment, though. Hell, even Bobbin, we kind of knew that Beiji's the one that killed him, right? Okay. So, yeah, they just, one dark and stormy night, they just find Don Marlin beat to shit on the ground, and, yeah, R.I.P. That might have been the thing that maybe kicked off the Mafia Wars at the West Blue. So some people have said Don Marlin could just be the father of Beiji. Yeah, I guess it's possible. But like something I looked at it like as is Don Marlin was like the Mafia Don of the entire West, okay? And then he died, and then that maybe kick-started like clan wars kind of thing, like family wars or something, like the big 5 families we learn about later, and Beiji is one of those. And so he eventually eventually ends up conquering all of those families many decades later, and then forms the Fire Tank Pirates, and then goes to the Grand Line because he was just bored, you know what I mean? So that's the way I look at it. If you want to say Beiji is Don Marlin's son, yeah, I mean, I guess it's possible. Beiji's in, like, his 40s right now, so it's totally feasible that he could have been born already. But, yeah, that's the end of Don Marlin. But that's not the worst thing. I mean, that sucks for me, but that's not the worst thing, okay? The worst thing is, Shocky's been kidnapped! No! Dun, 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 dun! And the world, like, the planet stopped turning on that one day. Actually, not far off from that, actually. We'll get to it. But anyway, Shocky's been kidnapped, Don Marlin is dead, and they have no idea what's going on, right? So Rox is upset, Whitebeard is looking around like, what's going on? Someone kidnapped our Shaku-Yaku! Right? It only took the perpetrating party a few hours, but they left behind no trace. And then immediately Oda shows us who's the one that actually was responsible for this. And it was Wang. Because we see Wang Ji off to the side here. Nobody else realizes it was him. But Wang is off to the side counting the money, the berries. It's just like, wonder what Wang's laughter style is going to be. We don't know yet. But we see Gloriosa absolutely just beside herself. You know, tears just streaming down her face. And I like that because it's at least like, yeah, Gloriosa and Shaku-Yaku had a little bit of like, not like a rivalry between one another, but like Shaku-Yaku was always applauded as the most beautiful woman in the world and Gloriosa was always like number 2. But that doesn't change the fact that they were literally both Kuja and they were on the same ship and they cared about one another. They were still like family essentially, right? So I view that as more of just like, oh, everybody admires Shaku-Yaku and Roger wants to be with Shaku-Yaku, but not with me, you know, but that's nothing like real. At the end of the day, Shaku-Yaku's been kidnapped and that's like her family that's been taken from her. She's gonna be rather upset about that, okay? She still has regular human emotions. Now, Wang, on the other hand, guys, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Wang is kind of a dick. Yeah. He's way more dickish than I would assume for a guy named Wang. I don't know. But, yeah, he's the one behind all this. And, you know what? Before, when people were saying that he was the dad of Caribou and Korobo, and I was like, nah, I want to still go with the whole Moria father theory kind of thing. In this one panel right here, where he's counting the money, and a little bit of snot just dribbling down his nose, he's like, I can see it. I can see it now. Yeah, Caribou and Korobo's dad. I can see this. Okay, the pirates were distraught and shaking with rage. They're all on the ground. They're all in like the fetal position and they're all bawling their eyes out on Hachinosu. They're like, Shocky! Please come back, Shocky! I hope you're okay, Shocky! Why? You know, so they're all just on the ground and just like the lake of tears forms on Hachinosu, right? Roger finds out about this and he is upset. He rips the newspaper in half. Damn you, Rox! How could you let this happen? How could you let them take her? I'm gonna kick your ass! You know, Roger's channeling Hank Hill right now. I'm gonna kick your ass, I tell you what, Rox. Word spread across the sea. Rayleigh's even reading the paper and he's also very upset about this. He's like, Shocky, no. And you see probably headline news for weeks after this. And the people sank into deep despair. Nobody on the planet smiled for several weeks. And the world's economy ground to a halt. All right, listen. I mean, we've already kind of shown, Oda's already been really good at showing us just the absurdity, the divine power of Shaku-Yaku's beauty, right? Like, she steps out from the ship and like all the birds immediately stop singing and like the world stops like spinning for a moment, right? So I don't know much about global economies. I only took one class of civics in high school, but How the hell does a world economy ground to a halt for several weeks? Does that just mean everybody just stops buying and selling stuff? It's just like, oh yeah, every single business, every mercantile operation, everything just like stops. It's like, we can't do it anymore. We're just gonna sit in our homes and out in the streets and cry and wail and pound the ground in futility to find Shakuyaku. So that went on for a few weeks where just everything ground to a halt. And so 1 year later, God Valley in the West Blue. So we're cutting ahead. So Shakuyaku was missing for a while. It wasn't like she was kidnapped like a couple of weeks before God Valley and brought there. And you know, so this is the thing that Roger was speaking about when he lands on God Valley. And he's like, I've been waiting for this for a whole year. Or I've been beside myself for a whole year. That's what he was referring to, right? Also, 39 years ago, like, this was the year that Roger found Lodestar. He reached the end of the Grand Line in the log pose route, but he's not even concerned about that or even thinking about that. He's like, oh yeah, we reached the end of the Grand Line and we found out about the road poneglyphs and the ancient lost place Laugh Tale and the One Piece and everything. I don't care, Shakuyaku's missing! So Roger's got his priorities, ladies and gentlemen, right? So you know for this entire year, they've been looking all over the place for her, right? Especially Roger's crew that has a vested interest. Same thing with Rox. I mean, more so for Rox, I would feel, because at the end of the day, taking away all the fact that everybody was in love with Shakuyaku, Shakuyaku was living on Hachinosu. She was living on the pirate island. That is where she built her establishment, the rip-off bar, right? She was a citizen of Hachinosu. Rox was effectively the ruler of Hachinosu. It is kind of his responsibility to make sure that she's safe in terms of, like, you know, somebody coming onto the island and just taking her and leaving, right? So I could kind of see Rox's perspective on this, even though he's not, like, beside himself in love with her anymore. He has a wife and he has a child. Yeah, Rox has a vested interest in this. It's just like, hey, more so than anything, somebody came onto my island and then, or somebody was a traitor and, like, sold off Shaki to somebody in the world government. I assume they probably arrive at the conclusion it's the world government. It's the only one that really makes sense that they could even attempt this or even do this, right? Okay? So they look over the whole world, I'm sure. Like, they scour the entire planet for a year and do not find her. So 38 years ago, we go to God Valley. Garling returns to the island for the first time in a year, and he meets his children. So we see Shanks and Shamrock there in the stroller kind of looking up and being like, Daddy, Daddy! You know, they're kind of reaching out for Garling. We still do not see the face of the mother. However, she still does have red hair. So the theory that it's this woman, unless there was an error with, like, the exact, like, hair color, or she didn't dye her hair, obviously, you know, it's not this person. I mean, I guess it technically still could be, but I'm assuming it's not. So Garling comes back, and the woman is like, oh, darling, I always knew you would come back someday. You would come back here, and then we would all live on the island together in absolute happiness as the perfect family. I'm so happy, right? So that's the situation there. And Garling just kind of walks over to her, and he does say, he's like, oh, those are my kids, huh? Aw, they're precious. Well, I'm gonna bring them back to Marie Joie with me. But honey, aren't you going to stay on God Valley? If there's one island I would be spending my time on, it wouldn't be this one. And so he says, like, yeah, this island's not going to be around for much longer. And she's like, huh? What are you talking about, sweetie? You said we were going to be together forever, didn't you? Well, I already found myself a bride worthy enough for me. I put an order in for her. So she's going to be the prize at this upcoming tourney. We're going to have a good fun time here for a couple of weeks, massacre all the people on this island and a bunch of slaves, and then eventually I'll take the prize and go off and live happily ever after with Shakuyaku. And so she's like, what are you talking about? What is this? Like, she has never heard of any of this. Keep in mind, God Valley is an unaffiliated nation. I'm not really sure how this went down with Garling, like, because it mentioned he just stopped by there like a year ago on the way back from another mission. So I don't know if the people on the island even knew he was a God's Knight? I mean, the people on the island had to have at least known that the world government existed. They just chose to not be part of it, okay? And so the world is a big place. I would imagine there's quite a few islands that are unaffiliated that the government themselves don't even know about really yet. But then when they discover one, when it gets found out on their radar like this, oh, all bets are off, right? So I don't know. Maybe Garling just like stopped off at the island at the port to get a drink or something, and nobody knew who he was. Nobody knows who the God's Knights are or anything like that. And this woman fell in love with Garling, and then Garling just played it up and was just like manipulating the hell out of this woman and just be like, oh yeah, that seems like fun. Oh yeah, we'll spend the rest of our lives together. Sure, you're my soulmate, whatever the hell. And then that's the night where Shamrock and Shanks were conceived. He leaves, comes back, and immediately stabs her in the damn chest, which is what he does, because she starts freaking out because she doesn't understand any of this, and then he just takes out his sword and just stabs right through her. I did say in a video I made this past week how messed up it would be if during the native hunting competition, she was also, you know, a target and Garling's the one that took her out. That did happen, just not in that context. Like, even before the battle, the tournament even started, he was just like, oh yeah, it's been a year, it's crazy, how you been? Oh, I have kids, that's great, all right, well, see ya. And then that's Garling. That's the most horrible piece of shit he is. So it was mentioned that he put an order in for the most beautiful woman in the world. That was Shakuyaku. We know that Wang Ji was part of this, but we don't know exactly the whole mechanics on how Shakuyaku was taken. Obviously, like, there's no way that I think, like, the regular Cipher Pol could have, like, infiltrated the island. Even Cipher Pol 0 infiltrating the island would have been pretty difficult. So the only way they could have managed to get Shakuyaku is if they had somebody on the inside to bribe. So they looked at Wang Ji, and they were just like, oh, that looks like a guy that'll probably take a bribe. So they went up to him, and they were like, hey, we'll give you probably billions of berry in exchange, get Shakuyaku off the island or something. I'm sure Wang couldn't have done it by himself. There had to have been maybe other accomplices or something like that. But the fact the government was able to reach their tendrils into the pirate island and kidnap Shaki should not be overstated or understated. What, overstated should not be understated. Let's go with that, right? So yeah, Wang was part of this. But we don't really know much more about Wang in terms of his power level or what kind of devil fruit he has. Maybe he had a devil fruit that made it really easy. What if, oh, wait a minute. What if Wang has Caribou's devil fruit? Because if we are going along with the logic that Caribou and Korobo are the children of Wang, Caribou has, like, the devil fruit, the Numa Numa no Mi, the swamp fruit, and he was able to use that to kidnap all of the mermaids and almost Shirahoshi back at Fishman Island. That could make sense if we just go along with that, right? Okay. So that's the situation that's there, and now Shakuyaku is being held at God Valley as the grand prize for the tournament. We did not see this full part during Kuma's backstory. Oda just kind of cut away. But we do see the MC at the end of the chapter kind of going over all the prizes, continuing where he left off from Kuma's backstory, right? So the woman gets stabbed. She is not dead yet, but she is bleeding out. Now, the Navy starts swarming the island, okay? All the members of the island, like the citizens, are all just like, Navy soldiers from the world government are invading our island, what's going on? Maybe they're looking for a criminal? Get the children inside, what's happening, right? So the Marines start invading, and they start shooting tranquilizer darts at all of the citizens. For a moment there, you might think, oh, okay, well, at least they're not using live rounds. And then you realize the reason why they're using tranq rounds. Because they're going to knock out the citizens, paint a damn target on their back, throw them in cages, and let them loose in this tournament. Holy shit, this is fucked up. Does anybody have any sense to call this out? Well, a plucky young Marine just beginning his career, ladies and gentlemen, happens to be here as well. And so we have Monkey D. Dragon. He would have been 17 years old at this point. This would have been the same age that Luffy was when he left Dawn Island to go out to sea to be a pirate. And we see him here as a Marine soldier. So he goes up to his commanding officer, who is a lieutenant commander, is like, Lieutenant Commander, what exactly is the goal of this operation here? Why are we firing tranquilizer rounds at citizens that are running away in fear and panic? It's a training exercise, soldier! Just zip it! You're in the Marines now! You're too early in your career to be starting to questioning my orders! Now get to work and start shooting those people! but I don't understand. And so the lieutenant commander looks over at another officer. He's just like, squadron leader, what's the deal with this grunt right here? Why is he speaking back to me? It's like, oh, I'm sorry, sir, he's still in training. Ah, God dang it. Well, get over there and start telling him to shoot people. We're the Marines, damn it, not some kind of tea party. You know, like, so that's the situation. All right. So, yeah, the Marines are doing what they're told, and they're just shooting all of the citizens. Everybody's okay with this, I guess, except Dragon. I guess Dragon's the only soldier here that's like, wait a minute, guys. Wait a minute. Why? Why are we doing this? Now, look, like, I feel like, okay, they did actually come up with an excuse. It's a shitty excuse, like a cover story. It's a training exercise. So, all of these, okay. Most Marines, I would assume, that join up, you know, like they see the big banner that says, you know, I want you to join the Marines, you know, and they go and they enlist and they go through their basic training and they get their little Marine uniform or whatever, and they're like, here's your standard issue, like, rifle or whatever the hell. You get your little Marine baseball cap, you get your scarf and everything. It's like, all right, you're a seaman recruit or a seaman apprentice or something like that, right? Okay. So I would imagine most of the, you know, just freshly enlisted Marines would probably be all about that ideal of justice, right? Like, a few of them would probably be corrupt from the beginning, but I am assuming most of them are like, I am here to protect the citizens of the world. I am here to enforce justice. I am here to kill the pirates and the bandits and everybody out there that would bring harm to people, right? And so you go to this island out in the middle of the West Blue, and you're told it's a training exercise. And then there's no pirates here. There's no bandits here. This looks like just like a regular town with regular citizens that are non-combatants that you're being told to shoot in the back. Granted with tranquilizer darts, but still, shoot them in the back. Like men, women, children, elderly people, everybody. And it's like, the only person that brings up like, hey, maybe this doesn't look right is Dragon, okay? So Dragon brings it up again. He's like, these are just ordinary civilians. Don't question it. There's no room for personal doubts when following military orders. This is the threat. You gotta do it. So it's like, focus on completing the mission, soldier. So Dragon takes out his gun and he's like, okay, I guess. Dad, I mean, also remember Dragon's father is Garp, and so Garp was probably the one that's like pushed him into the Marines, like, you gotta join the Marines, son, you know, that was the whole thing, right? So, I don't exactly know Garp's parenting style. I know his grandparenting style, but I don't know his parenting style. Maybe he raised Dragon a little different, I don't know. But you gotta understand, when Dragon finally joined the Marines, he was probably looking up to his dad as sort of like, you know, now granted, Garp at this point is not the hero or the fist quite yet. He hasn't really received those epithets. But Garp is a vice admiral. He's a high-ranking Marine. He's really well, you know, studied in the ways of the fist, right? Okay, so he knows his shit. So maybe Dragon is like, okay, well, my dad is a Marine. He's been a Marine for decades at this point. Okay, I'll go along with this. I mean, that's what my dad wanted me to do, and he's been a Marine, so I guess I'll follow orders, because that's the way it works, right? So he's like, okay, it's just tranquilizer rounds. They shouldn't kill anybody. Okay, and so we just see a title box that says Marine. It doesn't give his rank, but I'll get to that in a moment. Monkey D. Dragon, future Supreme Commander of the Revolutionary Army and the father of Luffy. Okay, so from what we understand with the way that Marine ranks work, there are infantry ranks and there are officer ranks. You can tell the difference pretty quickly if you see any Marine that has like the Justice cloak with the epaulets and the kanji on the back for Justice. They are an officer rank, so they are at least an ensign or higher. Okay, they're the only ones that are allowed to wear the cloaks. Okay, now the infantry ranks are broken into the seaman, recruit, apprentice, and first class, and then the petty officers. You got petty officer, chief petty officer, and then master chief petty officer. And then at the very top of the infantry ranks, you have warrant officer, okay? There's also chore boy, zatsuyo. That was kind of like an unofficial rank, like you're the janitor, basically. That's what Kobe and Helmeppo were at the beginning, okay? So what rank is Dragon right here? Well, you can roll out any officer rank immediately. One thing, he's not dressed like an officer, but also he was being told that he's like relatively new to the Marines and he shouldn't be mouthing off to his superiors. He reported directly to a lieutenant commander, okay, which is an officer rank. Okay, the officer ranks go ensign and then lieutenant junior grade, regular lieutenant, and then lieutenant commander. Okay, so the guy he was reporting to was a relatively low ranking commanding officer. Okay, so When you get into the petty officer class, though, like Kobe and Helmeppo, you're sort of allowed to switch out your standard Marine uniform. Like when you enlist, you have like the standard outfit. When you reach the petty officer grade, you're able to customize your outfits a little bit. Like remember, Helmeppo had that like green vest, and Kobe had like the zip-up jacket and things like that. You don't have to dress like a typical like the sailor uniforms, right? Okay. I like to imagine all the Marine bases have a little store off to the side where once you reach the certain class, you could go in there and request, you know, personalized clothing and stuff. So looking at Dragon's outfit right now, Dragon seems to be wearing like the standard Marine like recruit outfit. It just seemed like he rolled up his sleeves a little bit. He has a backpack. He has a bunch of handcuffs on his backpack as well off to the side to like secure the civilians. I guess he has the tranquilizer gun. He has a tattoo, the same tattoo that he's eventually going to get tattooed on his face. Pay attention to that tattoo. There's going to be significance to that exact mark. The diamond marks that Dragon has tattooed on his face, and then he has it on his arm as well, and then also later on he has like an outfit that also has the design. So that design is always present whenever Dragon shows up. What does that design mean? Does it mean something involving the Will of D? Does it mean something involving the Davy clan? Does it mean something else? Like, what's going on with that mark? It's going to be relevant. We might get to Laughtail and see that mark on the walls or some shit like that. I don't know, but pay attention to that mark that Dragon's always has on him, okay? So considering his commanding officers were kind of telling him that he's like a new recruit and he just started and he's still early in training and stuff, I don't even think Dragon is a petty officer class at this point. I think Dragon is like maybe Seaman First Class right here, or Seaman Apprentice or something. This is like early days in the Marines where maybe he just finished basic and this is his first or second like training exercise outside of basic training at his base that he learned at, okay, or whatever. Like, I'm thinking it's something more like that. You also get the idea that Dragon would, Garp would not, like, give special treatment to Dragon. Garp would not be like, he's my son, let him be an officer right at the beginning. You know the way Garp was gonna raise his kid would probably be like, no, you gotta start from the bottom and work your way up, just like I did, right? So Dragon probably started just at this, the same as everybody else. He started as a seaman recruit and then working his way up, okay? That's just the way it goes down. So, I'm gonna say, yeah, maybe Seaman First Class or something for Dragon right here. But anyway, he takes out his gun and he's like, if you let me just detain you, I won't shoot you. If you just give up, I'll just, handcuff you and that'll be the end of it. And he's like, screw you! This is our island! I'm not letting you take us away from here! And so Dragon's like, sir? Are you sure this is a training exercise? Because it seems really real. Shut up and follow orders, soldier! Okay! So, yeah, you can see where Dragon was definitely coming from when he said, like, I saw no justice in that organization. Probably after only, like, 2 weeks in the Marines after doing basic, he was probably like, this is some bullshit right here. Why is everybody following along with this? This isn't cool. Then again, maybe he just drew the shit luck lottery and most Marines at their beginning don't actually end up. Like, this is God Valley directly rounding up civilians for the native hunting competition for the Gods Knights in the Tenryubito, right? Most regular Marines might not get this assignment on their first day, and it seems like Dragon did. Okay, so it's just like he gets maybe just to see through the veil quicker than other people did, right? So now the Marines start bombing the island with sleeping gas. They just start going World War I tactics with this shit. Just gassing the whole island. Put on your gas mask, soldier. And Dragon's like, what the holy hell is going on? Right? Okay. So now we cut over to a Navy prison ship transporting the slaves from the various locations in the world to God Valley to also be used in the tournament. We see somebody sneaking into the comm room. That is Ginny. She, of course, was a wiretapping expert, and she was able to sneak in and alert not just Hachinosu, but like all the pirates around the area. Hey, this is going down at God Valley right now. You need to get your ass here right now. So that's how Rox finds out to go there and everything like that. So that was all on Ginny, right? And so we see Ginny and Ivankov in one part of the hold of the ship, and she's like, oh, hey, big bro Ivankov, I managed to do it. I alerted everybody. And so Ivankov's like, yes, now we just have to hope that, I just hope that the informant to relay it. Okay. I see what happened here. See, I was a little confused because Ginny was the one that leaked the information, but then also Morgan's was involved in this too at God Valley back in the day. So I was like, okay, how does Ginny and Morgan's both fit into this? So Ivankov mentions it's time for the informant to relay it. So Ginny I guess it does make sense that, yeah, Ginny, with, like, just being able to send a quick message, because she wouldn't be able to spend a lot of time in the comm room without being discovered, right? She wouldn't be able to, like, send a message to the entire world at once. That probably wouldn't work just from a Navy comm station on a battleship, right? So she would have to send her message to one person, and then that one person would then spread the information through the entire world or get the information out. That one person was Morgan's, and we'll get to him in a moment. Okay, so that's Ivankov and Ginny. In another section of the ship, Kuma is there. We see him being transported as well, and he doesn't see Ivankov and Ginny yet. He'll meet them later on God Valley, but he's there. It was just like, wow, some people are in really high spirits today, huh? And he's like kind of like, showing a half smile because, at this point his parents are both dead and he's being sent to God knows where. He doesn't know where. God knows where, God Valley. So Ivankov is trying to rally up the slaves. He's trying to be like, hey, you all gave up hope already. Come on, you gotta fight if you want to make it out of this, right? So they're trying to motivate everybody to get moving. So then we cut to Cipher Pol Intelligence Bureau. Somewhere in the Grand Line or somewhere in the world. We don't know where this is at exactly, but it's like a little castle that has the world government sigil on it. And so Morgan shows up and he's like, hey, I got some hot news for you guys. And they're just like, you have more absurd intel? What is it this time? Hey, you guys must have caught wind of that transmission too. So that I got some information that I could show to the entire world, right? So how about you keep this story quiet? You pay me. And then so the Cipher Pol agents, which can't be super high ranking, these might be like, because they're dealing with this kid from what they can see. So we see Morgan's, right? Morgan's is 15 at this point, and he's already stated to be the president of the World Economic Journal. But I'm assuming at this point it was like a small town newspaper that he basically started on his own. Morgan's already has his albatross zone, and he already is in full albatross form, even back then, okay? So I think this sort of throws away the idea that he could be Mr. Monoma from Roger's crew, because we see Mr. Monoma a little earlier as like an adult, and we see Morgan's here clearly as a bird, and also Roger's going to be showing up at God Valley. I just don't think the timelines work for that theory anymore. Maybe they could be related in some way, but I don't think that they're the same person, right? Although it is still fascinating that as long as we've known him, and we still don't know what he really looks like, he could be a character we've already known, right? He could be a character we've met before. He could be a character somewhere like we would recognize, but the fact he's always, that's actually a very smart move for him. Stay in his full beast form as much as possible, so then that way he can go like undercover. Like he could just be like, I'm gonna turn into a regular dude and just walk around and nobody can tell I'm the president of the World Economic Journal. We also see a couple of news coups next to him as well. So I'm thinking that Morgan's, in his younger years, ate the albatross zone. He maybe figured out a way to communicate with birds, or maybe the birds were like his only friends or something on the island. Like he was like lonely and an orphan, and the birds, the seagulls, started hanging out with him, and he started to learn how to communicate with them when he ate his albatross zone. And then he was like, wait a minute, I could write newspaper and I could give it to the birds and I could tell them where to deliver it. And all of a sudden, you have news media. You have print media at your fingertips, and nobody else in the world's able to do this because nobody else can communicate with birds. Except Apis, but she's not canon, right? So that's actually a really cool thing where Morgan's probably started the World Economic Journal as a small town newspaper on a little island out in the middle of nowhere, but then it was able to spread through the whole island really quickly because like, wow, newspapers delivered by seagulls. What will they think of next? And then the seagulls like shit on everybody. Jonathan Livingston Seagull! But like still the idea that like newspapers delivered by birds is like, wow, this is actually really convenient. Hey, Morgan's, you should start doing newspapers to other islands too. And he's like, maybe I will. And then that's where the legend of Big News Morgan started, right? And so the Cipher Pol agents aren't taking him super seriously here. They're just kind of like maybe Cipher Pol 1 or 2 that are like, because it seems like Morgan's just showed up at the Bureau and knocked on the front door. These guys are probably like the doormen that shoo people away. And they're just like, hey, how does he keep getting intel like this? There's just a small town rag of a newspaper, you know what I mean? It's nothing important. And so the Cipher Pol agents are kind of threatening him, just like, hey, you know, kid, if you keep running your mouth, you're going to end up getting erased. You know that, right? And then Morgan's not afraid in the slightest. He's like, ha ha ha, just try and stop me. Fools, I was gonna leak the news to Pirate Island either way. So Morgan's at age 15 is already a businessman, a business bird, or whatever. He's already like, all right, wait a minute. I can maybe go over to the Cipher Pol and I'd be like, hey, if you guys don't want me leaking this information, you're gonna have to give me some money. And so he was gonna get the money, and it's like, I'm gonna leak the information anyway. You know, so that was the idea with Morgan's. Right now, they didn't seem to pay him off or anything like that. They will eventually later on. They have kind of a whole thing going on. But at the end of the day, Morgan's was the way he always was. If there's some big hot news on his lap, you know, that's like out there and it's just like, wow, this is super invested, super interesting, he's going to spread it to the world. He doesn't care. You know what I mean? He doesn't know how much money you pay him. In that regard, as a journalist, like, hey, if it bleeds, it leads. This is the news. This is the crazy world we live in. I'm gonna, you know, throw that out there in the world and nobody can stop me, no matter how much money you give me, right? That seems to be the idea with Morgan's, and hey, I mean, it got him places if nothing else, okay? So cutting over to Hachinosu, they finally discover, they got the paper, that Shaki was kidnapped by the world government and she was taken to God Valley to be there during this event, this native hunting competition, right? So they get the newspaper and it's like, it's Shaki! She's still alive! Oh my god, finally! Oh, glory be! Let's go save her, right? So they all learn about God Valley. This is all printed in the newspaper. Now, I don't know if the World Economic Times was really a global newspaper at this point, considering just how long ago it was, and it seems like Morgan's just got it starting up. But he was going to leak the news directly to Pirate Island directly, so it wasn't like maybe the whole world gets the paper at once, but like the island that Morgan started the company on certainly would, and then a few other islands maybe around it certainly would, but it definitely doesn't probably have the sway as it does now. Maybe that also leads to the idea why people kind of forgot about God Valley. It was published, but just like not at the crazy level that the World Economic Times is right now in the story, right? Okay. So, Wang Ji still is, like, playing dumb as just like, oh, wow, this is crazy. So what's the source exactly for this? Where'd you exactly get the, where does this information come from? Because, like, Wang is all, like, nervous and sweating and just like, is like, yeah, there's no doubt about it. You know, this is a Navy transmission. This is, like, legit. This is legit Navy intel that was leaked. Okay, so we know exactly where she is. So Shaki... So Ganzui and Shiki start screaming like, Shaki-chan, we're coming to save ya! Also in the memory of Don Marlin. They don't really say that, but I'll remember you, Don Marlin. Don't worry about it, right? So you got Whitebeard that comes out, and he was just like, huh, the Celestial Dragon's, like, human hunt. I thought that was just a rumor. So they don't even really know about these competitions occurring, just like vague rumors on the seas, right? Big Mom, of course, is not really that interested in saving Shaki, but she is interested in getting really strong devil fruits for her children. And she even mentions that one of these fruits could be perfect for one of my kids, right? So we know at this point, I think Katakuri... Yeah, Katakuri definitely has the Mochi Mochi no Mi at this point. Parosparrow, I also think, has the Lick Lick fruit, the candy fruit at this point. There's Oven, there's Daifuku. Montor, I think, was just born this year, so the Book fruit. Maybe if in a different world... Maybe Montor ends up getting the dragon fruit or the pawpaw fruit in a weird different world or whatever. She also says, hey, Kaido, you know, do you want one of these fruits? Maybe you could get a power here as well. And so Kaido's like, well, what do these fruits do? What are these powers? Right, well, this one lets you have the control over paw pads. All right, I don't really know if that's me, but, you know, maybe. This one lets you turn into a dragon. Oh, sick! That would be awesome! You know what I mean? Well, it's first come, first serve. It's whoever gets their hands on the fruit first, right? Stroizen is there. He's like, yeah, maybe this is some kind of trap for us. I mean, it seems too good to be true kind of thing. And Rox is like, nope. If you got cold feet, you could just stay behind on this island and rot. Let's move, guys. God Valley or bust. Let's go bring her back. And everyone's like, yeah! So morale is very high right about now, if nothing else. Same thing with the Roger Pirates. They get their hands on that information, and he's like, oh, Gabon, because Scopper Gabon was the navigator of the Roger Pirates. Where is God Valley? It's like, well, we're not exactly close to it, but I think we'll make it in time. All right, let's get moving. All right, so they ship out there. And even Rayleigh is like, yes, we're going to save Shaki. Even Rayleigh's like, yes, we're going to save her. You know, Rayleigh's probably regretting right now maybe not going to see Shaki and responding to her love letter. You know, maybe Rayleigh's feeling a little bit down right now, and he's like, no, we got to go save her this time. I got to make sure this isn't the end, because I would never like Rayleigh would live with that regret his entire life if Shockey died right now or was sold off into slavery at Marie-Joie for the rest of her life, and he never got a chance to actually respond to that letter. You know, I feel like Rayleigh would have at that point sacrificed his life trying to go and save her, because he has a vested interest now. Okay, so. Roger's like, yeah, Rox is already on his way. We have to make sure we beat him to it. It was an unlikely turn of events, but this small leak led to the mobilization of all the toughest men on the seas. You also see Garp, the same scene as earlier where Garp was on vacation and Kong called him up and is just like, hey, Roger's gonna be there. He's like, oh, why didn't you buried the lead, Kong? And then he started moving. Okay, so Garp's on his way, Roger's on his way, Rox is on his way, Shiki, Whitebeard, Big Mom Kaido, all the big names in the world. Even Wang Zhi. Actually, was Wang Zhi at God Valley? What if Wang Zhi what if Wang Zhi chose to stay behind and was like, oh, sorry guys, my stomach. you ever see the Civil War on drugs? You know, WKUK? It's like Doug is just like, I was like, oh yeah, you guys go ahead of me, I'll catch up. And it's like, so everybody leaves Hachinosu. Wang decides, I'll stay here and guard the place, guys. Don't worry about it. Everything will be fine. They go off to God Valley. Big epic war. Rox dies. Everybody else gets scattered. And then Wang is like, I control Hachinosu now. So maybe that was the plan, because we don't see Wang at God Valley. Oh man. Okay. Anyway, as Rox is heading towards God Valley, a giant ship appears. I wonder who it could be. Oh, it's Harald, right? Damn. Man, I mean, okay, am I the only one reading this flashback, and every time Harald shows up, I'm like, oh shit, right, this is a flashback involving the Giants. Right, that was how this started. Okay, cool. Okay, so anyway, this is the first time Harald and Rox are seeing each other after their little scuffle they had 2 years prior, where Rox was like, you and I are no longer friends. You know, you're a dog to the world government and nothing else. Right, okay. So they show up, and Harald has been given strict orders to kill Rox. Wait a minute. Stop for a moment. Stop. The original deal that Harald was given was kill Rox and be part of the world government. He did not kill Rox 2 years ago. It was a draw. So I don't think they're part of the world government yet. Yeah. Oh, this is weird. Okay. So there's a government ship off in the distance observing. And Harald even kind of tells Rox, like, hey, there's a government surveillance ship over there to make sure I'm doing what I'm doing, right? So Rox calls him, so you're still trying to play favor to the government's lapdog. Okay, I don't think they're part of the world government yet. Because the whole premise of that was you have to kill Rox first, and he hasn't done that yet. So, okay, I don't think, yeah, that's not happening yet. They're still, like the deal might still be in order, and so maybe they found out that Rox is heading toward God Valley, and there's like, oh, hey, Harald, here's your second chance. Go kill him, and then you could be part of us. And so Harald shows up, but he's still not in the mood to kill Rox. He's still just like, I really don't want to do this, right? They said your entire crew was obsessed with this woman, Shakuyaku. Then I knew I'd be able to intercept you here. You know, if we fought without any regard, we could, you know, sink your little ship with ease. You know, we're a giant ship, Rox. We could sink you all right here, right? And so Rox is kind of back-talking him a little bit. You know, you're underestimating us. You know, if we all fought together, you know, we could wipe you out too. Are you really content to let the government sit back and watch us tear each other apart? Which is probably what the government is actually probably hoping for. The government's probably hoping that Harald and Rox just kill each other and call it a day, right? So anyway, Rox once again spitting straight facts, if nothing else. You're nothing but a giant lunatic clinging to your deluded version of progress. Damn! Rox is just going at it, but you know, he's kind of right. Yeah. So he's just like, hey, I know we got off on the wrong foot last time. Things didn't really end so great between us, but how about we just have a drink, Harald, just for old time's sake? So they do. They just have a drink on the deck of his ship. I have a hidden name, so this is very similar like when Law was telling Baby 5 and Buffalo about like his hidden secret name, Trafalgar D. Water Law, right? He's like, yeah, this is for your ears only, Harald. I can only trust this with you, okay? I didn't even tell anybody on my own crew this yet. He's like, oh, okay, spill the tea, Rox, what's going on? It's like, okay, well, I got a hidden name. My real name is Davy D. Zebek. This is also sounding very similar to when Roger and Whitebeard were having that conversation at the end. Like, I'm not Gold Roger, I'm Gold D. Roger. I'm Davy D. Zebek. And I am a part of the Davy clan that the government has been trying to erase since, you know, the Void Century, for hundreds of years, right? It's tied to the lineage of the legendary pirate, Davy D. Jones! The name still commands some influence in the underworld even now, but it's barely getting by. All right, so, couple of things. Number one, that doesn't really surprise me that Rox is the descendant of Davy. We always kind of assumed that, we actually assumed that maybe the Will of D stood for Davy. It doesn't, because that would be so stupid if his name was, my name is Davy Jones. Then again, maybe not completely out of the realm of possibility for Oda's sense of humor, but probably not gonna be Davy D. Jones. I'm Davy Jones of the Davy clan. Probably not, right? Okay? So many Davies. So the name of this legendary pirate was Davy D. Jones. So the Will of D even existed back in that era, even if Davy was the first person to have that name. In fact, that might be the reason here. Remember, Joy Boy was also mentioned to be the first pirate, but Davy is also talked about as one of the progenitors of piracy as well. So I'm thinking like there were two clans of like the progenitors of what pirates would be. Remember, way back at the beginning of like the planning stages for One Piece, Oda originally intended there to be two types of pirates, Peacemains and Morganeers. Peacemains were the pirates that were more about adventure and romance, like what Luffy and the Straw Hats are all about. Morganeers were more like Eustace Kid, going places, pillaging, murder, burning towns down, that kind of shit, right? So even though we haven't used the terms Peacemain, Morganeer in the actual story, Oda kind of scrapped that idea with the names, there are still pirates that follow that track, and here we might get the idea that Joy Boy might have been the progenitor of the Peacemain type of pirate, and Davy D. Jones was the progenitor of the Morganeer type of pirate. Like the burning and murdering type of pirate, okay? So keep that in mind, but yeah, his original name was Davy D. Jones. The Will of D does not stand for Davy. The Davy clan, just like the Buccaneer clan, are the ones that they're trying to wipe out. Okay? Although Davy clan is like, I don't know if exactly they're referring to Davy clan as like the name Davy, because Buccaneers are like the type of tribe they're part of. You know what I mean? So it's like something else with that. But yeah, his real name is not Rox. So just so we all understand this, Davy D. Jones, Davy D. Zebek, but he changed his name to Rox D. Zebek. And then we have Marshall D. Teach, who is the son of Rox D. Zebek, who doesn't have the name Rox, nor the name Davy, but has the name Marshall. Yeah. Okay. That's the way that goes. Yeah. So, a lot of name changing in One Piece to make everything, like, make sense, I suppose. Like, I mean, hey, when the government's out to kill you, I guess you gotta change your name to whatever, right? Okay. So, we learned this piece of lore about Rox. It makes sense that he was a fan of Davy, and then Marshall D. Teach, Blackbeard's also a big fan of Davy D. Jones, alright? And they share a lineage with this guy. And then Rox goes on to say, I ain't sure if this timing was good or bad, but 2 years ago I had a kid. Now, raising a kid and the mother, you know, on Hachinosu, like having a big happy family on Hachinosu is probably not going to happen. You know what I mean? It's just not going to work. So, I sent my wife and my kid away to my homeland so they could be safe. And so Harald is just like, oh, I see. So your wife and your child are safe and sound back at your hometown. But why are you revealing this to me now? And Rox is like, because my hometown is God Valley! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! What are the odds? Oh no! That was the big shocker of the chapter for me, to be honest with you. I'd be like, oh God! Think of the children! Think of the children! Who would have thunk it? It is the island of destiny. It all comes back together. Oh, man. So, yeah, Rox's hometown is God Valley. All right, cool. That's fantastic. All right, that was the literal worst place you could have sent your kid and your wife. Ah, man. So, anyway, Harald is like, wait a minute, so you're saying the government staged this to lure you in? And he's like, nah, celestial dragons aren't that smart. This is just some weird coincidence. You know, just like, this is like some weird god up there is writing a story about us and really, really lining everything up for misery and suffering. That's really what's going on here, right? And so Rox is like, they just made a mistake, you know, but hey, they're not trapping me. They're trapped in the island with me kind of situation, because now Rox not only wants to go get Shakuyaku back, he does, but also he has a wife and kids to protect. This is a whole different dynamic to Rox. I never imagined we were going to go in this story, right? Like the idea of Rox fighting Garp and Roger at the same time, maybe it was to protect his children. I mean, what, his kid and his wife? You don't know, right? That's just how it is. So, you know, taking Shaki was their biggest blunder. As long as I get my wife and kids safely, I'll be at peace whatever happens next. Oh, okay, so I guess, I mean, he does kind of imply that, like, he cares more about his kid and wife than Shaki, which makes sense. But I'm sure if he wants to, you know, he also wants Shakuyaku to be safe. But if it doesn't feel like luck's on my side anymore, Harald, lend me a hand. So he, once again, even after that big fight they had, Rox extends the hand of friendship to Harald and is like, hey, if it's looking like I'm gonna die and I'm facing down death, maybe if I go up against Garp and Roger at the same time, come and give me a hand, Harald. And Harald's like, no way, I'm gonna sink you right here. Well, is that so? Well, bring it on, you son of a bitch! And then they start fighting, and they don't really do anything. It's kind of just like it's like, oh no, they got away kind of situation, right? Oh, we really tried to stop them, sorry. And so Rox, of course, goes forward on to God Valley, right? Shiki and everybody are in the background, too, just like, why are we wasting time here? We gotta go save her, right? Okay, so, Rox right here gives Harald the option, like, hey, if it's looking like I might die, come and help me, friend. I still consider you that. And then Harald's like, no. You know, Harald might not be on God Valley, but he might have been around God Valley, might have been watching from a distance, and he might have seen, you know, Rox, his whole crew abandons him at this point, everybody leaves, Whitebeard leaves, Big Mom Kaido, they all get out of there. He's staring down death in the face, Garp and Roger, and maybe Harald had the option to, like, maybe I should go save him. And he chose not to. And then that's where he became accepted into the government. You made a deal with the devil, Harald. You made the Faustian deal. Oh, man. So now, it's hard to believe, but every 3 years, this is the narrator, this is Panda Man, the Celestial Dragons choose an unaffiliated nation rich in natural resources and turn it into a hunting ground where they slaughter all the natives for sport. And so we see the final double page of the chapter where we see, well, first of all, Rox does seem to burn Harald's ship, but I'm assuming that's not enough to kill them, right? Like, he burned the ship, but I'm sure they'll figure out a way. Like Harald's story in this flashback's not done yet. That's the whole flashback, that's the whole point, right? So we see the final page. We see Shakuyaku being taken out as the MC is relaying all the prizes. He's just like, oh, look at all these rare devil fruits up for grab. That was the Dragon Zone. Now, next up, we have the grand prize, ladies and gentlemen. We have the most beautiful woman in the entire world that halted the economy for weeks after she was taken. We have Shakuyaku, Empress of the Kuja. And so Shaki walks out. She's wearing a Kuja-style dress, and she's looking very, like, despondent. They make a point to say that, like, oh, we've kept her in prime condition, you know, so they didn't harm her. She's not like all covered in cuts and bruises or anything like that, but the whole point of that was for this. And so they specifically mentioned, like, hey, take her as a wife, take her as a slave, whatever, you have to win the tournament. We see Summers there in his younger years. He's a piece of shit, and he's like, well, whatever, Garling, when I win, I'm gonna make her my personal slave. And so, okay, Summers can die now. That scene where Robin breaks his back, even though it didn't actually kill him, oh, that felt so good now. So yeah, we need somebody to kill Summers. Who's gonna kill Summers? Let's place bets on that one, okay? And then you have Garling. Oh no, she'll be my wife. All right, who's gonna kill Garling? Can it be Shanks? Can Shanks kill his dad? That would be fantastic. Let's do that. We also see the woman with the little cap that had all the world government symbols on it, and she was like, oh, the Manmeyers are gonna take it this year. Behind her is Gunko, because in the most recent SBS, it was mentioned that Gunko was really a member of the Manmeyer family, okay? So she says, hey, Gunko, with you here, we might just be able to take home the Clan War trophy. So you see Gunko in her younger years. Well, she looks the same as she does now, really, because of, like, the immortality thing. She still has the bandages on her face. She has longer hair. She's also wearing, like, a different kind of outfit. It looks kind of similar to, like, the first thing I immediately think of is Francois' outfit from Dr. Stone. You know, like the French-styled outfit with, like, the epaulets on the shoulders and everything like that. That's kind of how she's dressing. The way that this one member of the Manmeyer family mentions it, though, is sort of like, hey, with you here now, we can maybe win. The Manmeyer family can win the trophy for the Clan Wars. So I'm assuming the Clan Wars are, like, the celestial dragons are bored, and especially the God's Knights get like these wars between houses and things like that, sort of Game of Thrones-esque maybe, where it's like these kind of competitions are like, oh, which house is the best house? Because there's 19 houses that, you know, the Nefertari family left, so there's 19 families that live in Marijois that were the founding families. You got to always figure out the rankings on which one of those is the best, right? So that's probably what they're talking about here. But maybe Gunko recently joined or was adopted into the family, or maybe was there to begin with. I'm not really sure. You can kind of take this either way. But yeah, she is the grand prize of the tournament. There are more treasure chests in the background than there were originally. Because I remember there were 6 treasure chests, weren't there? I'm not going to check, but were there 6 treasure chests during Kuma's backstory? Because now there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then Shaki's the grand prize. So there were 10 prizes total. Shaki was the grand prize. Kind of sucks to even say that, but that's the way it's situated here. Don't worry. Shaki ends up having a happy ending. She is probably saved by Rayleigh. They fight and kill a bunch of people together, and then they get out of there, and then they live happily ever after on Saboti. So we know everything works out with Shaki and Rayleigh. By the way, another thing about Shaki being kidnapped, she's a warrior. She can fight. All right, you know, it isn't just like break into the bar and Wang like grabs her or something like that and gets the hell out of there, right? Like she can fight back, so that's another thing altogether. But anyway, yeah, there's more treasure chests here. Some of them are like white treasure chests and some of them are black treasure chests. But during Kuma's backstory, I could have sworn there was only 6. So maybe they brought out more of them, or maybe Oda decided to retcon this. I don't know. Retroactive continuity. I don't know. But anyway, there's more treasure chests in the background, I think. And then the final 2 scenes of the chapter, we have a scene with Dragon going into a house. There was a trail of blood. And so there's a woman in there who is the mother of Shanks and Shamrock. And she's there and she's like, my kids, please, you have to get them off the island. Please save them. And then she's bleeding out. And then she purportedly dies here. And then Dragon is there and just like, oh, don't let them take them. Don't let him take them away. Dragon has to find them now. Now, maybe he's only able to find Shanks, not Shamrock. Or maybe the way they get separated or something. And so Dragon is the one that takes baby Shanks and probably puts him in that treasure chest to be found by Roger. Okay, so that's the best option there. We also see Blackbeard at age 2. We see baby Blackbeard, and he's there in a cage, and we see the mother. We do not see her face either. There was a sketch that Oda drew of Blackbeard's mother. I don't know if it's going to be the same character or if it's going to be a little different. But she's like, hey, come here, Teach. It'll be all right. And he's just like, you know, he's a baby, kind of. He's like a toddler, so he's crying. And he's like, okay, it'll be all right. We'll make sure to survive. Don't worry about it. And then the final scene, we have just a pan-out view of God Valley. As every world noble knows, the tournament features several super rare rabbits to be hunted. This year, not only have we scored a brat from the Buccaneer clan, but we also have something fantabulous, something incredible, something preposterous even. We have, for the first time in 800 years, they have been uncovered, members of the Davy clan! And then that's the end of the chapter. No break next week. I don't think so. So they know about Blackbeard and Rox's lineage. They know they're part of the Davy clan. Obviously, Teach's mother would not be a member of the Davy clan. However, that probably doesn't matter to the government at all. Same thing with Kuma's mom not being a Buccaneer. Did not matter. And so that just makes for more of an interesting, you know, battle and kind of thing, a tournament for them. That's all it is. So we have to see God Valley now. Like, this is literally the setup to God Valley. Like, God Valley, like, literally right after this panel, God Valley happens. And it lines up perfectly with, like, Kuma's backstory at this point. So, like, this is the moment where, like, after the MC comes out and shows all the prizes, starting gun, and then they all get moving, right? So, I like, we have to see it at this point, right? Like to Oda, if Oda ended it right here, like, next chapter, it's like, the battle begins at God Valley! And then all of a sudden, Hiruden's like, okay, and that was 3 minutes exactly, Loki. Congratulations, you did not even tell me how Dad died. It's just like, well, I'm sorry. Okay, well, tell me the rest of the story later. We gotta go fight. It's like, that would be great. But yeah, that was the chapter. A lot of crazy stuff here. So how do we feel about Dragon in his younger years? Following, I mean, he questioned military duty, I guess, if nothing else. Let's see, Gartling stabbing the mother of Shanks and Shamrock. That was definitely on the bingo card, 100%. Wang Ji being the dick, that was the traitor. Yeah, that wasn't on my bingo card, but there we go. Summers being awful, we already knew that. Morgan's running a newspaper at the age of 15. That was like, hey, he's an entrepreneur, if nothing else. And then Rox being a member of the Davy clan. That's probably the big one. And then, oh no, Rox's homeland is also God Valley. What are the odds? That came out of nowhere, but like, damn, it all lines up to God Valley, yeah. I wonder if we're going to find out something really significant about God Valley from the Void Century, or possibly the Second or First Age. I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait to find out. But really insane chapter. I think there is going to be a very tearful moment with Harald and Rox, and then after the events of God Valley, he will be accepted into the government, and then that's at the point where he rips off his horns and he decides to no longer be a warfaring giant. Or what if Rox was so much of a badass? What if even Garp and Roger working together couldn't kill him? And then so Harald didn't go on the side of Rox, he sided with Roger and Garp. Yeah, with Garp as a Marine. And he's just like, I'll be the one to help you out. So it took Harald, Garp, and Roger together to bring down Rox. How about that? And then after that whole incident, after seeing all that chaos, that's when Harald decided to and rip off his horns. And never wanted to fight in a war again. Maybe. And then we gotta talk about the Davy clan. I made a video about Davy Jones not too long ago, but we talk about that again. I'll definitely learn more about him. All right, well, at least we know Will of D does not stand for Will of Davy, because that would be so weird to be Davy Jones. Okay, so there it is. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Techie 101 signing out. Onward to God Valley!